You ever just stop and think about what's actually happening when you type in a web address and smack that enter key? I mean, it feels totally instant, right? But what's really going on is this incredible high-speed chase across the internet. So today, let's pull back the curtain and follow that invisible journey. Okay, so this is it. This is the big question. You type in a name that makes sense to us humans, like youtube.com. But here's the thing. Computers, they don't really do names. They speak in numbers. So your computer's mission, basically, is to translate that name into a very specific numerical address, an IP address, and it needs to do it, like, yesterday.
So, before your computer goes on some wild goose chase all over the world, it does the smart thing. It checks its own notes first. I mean, why go on a huge road trip if the address is already scribbled on a sticky note right on your desk, right? This first part is all about being fast and efficient.
And it checks in a really logical order, always looking for the quickest win. First up, your browser checks its own memory, what we call its cache, for sites you visited recently. No dice? Okay, then it asks your whole operating system, your Windows or Mac OS. Hey, you got this address saved anywhere? Still nothing? All right, one last shot. It checks a special little file called the hosts file. Think of it like a manual private address book on your computer.
And you know what? If it finds the IP address in any of those 3 spots, boom, done. The journey's over before it even really started. Your browser just connects straight to YouTube and you start seeing videos. But for the sake of our story today, let's pretend it's your first time ever going to the site, or your cache is empty. The address isn't found locally. Now the real adventure begins. All right, since the answer isn't at home, your computer has to venture out into the big, wide world of the internet to find it. And this is where we kick off what I like to call the Great DNS Quest. DNS, by the way, stands for Domain Name System, which is just a fancy way of saying it's the phone book for the entire internet.
Every great quest needs a hero, right? Well, in our story, that hero is the DNS resolver. This is usually a service from your internet provider. Think Comcast or Verizon. And its whole job is to be your personal tour guide. Your browser just asks it one simple thing. Hey, can you go find the IP address for youtube.com for me? And just like that, the resolver is off.
Now, the resolver doesn't just magically know every single address. That would be impossible. Instead, it knows how to ask for directions by following a very specific chain of command. You can kind of picture it like climbing a ladder, where each rung we hit gets us one step closer to what we need. The resolver's very first question goes straight to the top, to something called a root name server. Get this, there are only 13 sets of these servers in the entire world. They're like the absolute top-level managers of the internet's address book. They're the starting point for everything. But here's the twist. The root server is kind of like a master librarian who hasn't read every single book in the library, but knows exactly which aisle to send you to find what you're looking for. It doesn't have the specific IP for youtube.com, but it sees that .com at the end and knows exactly who is in charge of all the .com websites. So the root server replies back to our resolver and basically says, look, I can't help you with that specific address, but you need to go talk to the servers that handle all the .com domains. Here's how to get to them. And with that new clue, our resolver is on its way. So, following those new directions, our DNS resolver zips over to the TLD server. We've officially moved one rung down the ladder, but we're a huge step closer to the final answer. This server is a specialist. It only deals with one type of domain, like .com or .org or .gov. The TLD server, again, is like another expert directory. It knows about every single website that ends in .com. But, believe it or not, it still doesn't have the specific IP address for YouTube. Its job is to give us the final piece of the map. So the TLD server tells our resolver, aha, I see you're looking for youtube.com. I know exactly who has the official final record for that domain. Go talk to them. And it points the way to the last stop on our quest. And here we are, the climax of the whole search, the authoritative name server. This is the one. It holds the official, undeniable record, the actual IP address for youtube.com. The name really says it all. This server has the final say. So our DNS resolver asks its very last question. What is the IP address for youtube.com? And this time, it finally gets the answer it's been hunting for. The quest is a success. Destination reached. And there it is, the treasure at the end of the journey. A string of numbers that looks something like this. This is the IP address. This is the language computers understand. It's the precise coordinate on the giant map of the internet that pinpoints exactly where YouTube servers live.
Now, with the prize in hand, the information makes the journey all the way back home. The authoritative server gives the IP to our resolver, and our trusty resolver zips it right back to your web browser, completing its mission. And that is the final piece of the puzzle. Your browser now has the magic number it was looking for. It uses that IP address to make a direct connection, asks for the web page, and, just like that, YouTube starts popping up on your screen. This whole invisible journey, all done in less time than it takes you to blink.
Now, here's a really important takeaway. What we just walked through, that was the full, long-haul version of the trip, the scenic route, if you will. In reality, this process is usually even faster, because each server along the chain, the resolver, the root, the TLD, they often save or cache the answers to popular requests. So a lot of the time, they can just take a shortcut. We just saw the longest possible path it could take.
It is absolutely wild to think that this complex, globe-trotting scavenger hunt is happening every single time you click a link or type in a URL. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other amazing invisible systems are working like crazy just beneath the surface of the screens we use every single day?